Are you like us? Tired of all the politically correct horseshit on podcasts and in the media? Need a podcast that's funny, smart, and gassy? It's not politically correct. It's just correct. This is the Carolina Underground. Throw that middle finger in the air. Raise them up. Because it's time to get loud, proud, and in your face. Generation X. Generation X. The best generation of all time meets the grit of the South. It's about everything and nothing at all. From current events to woolly boogers to movies to politics. Loud, brash, funny, and never, and I do mean never, predictable. The Carolina Underground with Mark and Mike.
Yo, it's the Carolina Underground, and we're coming to you live from the replica Bat Cave, and I'm talking with my partner in high crimes and misdemeanors, hidden somewhere in the deep, dark jungles of Sparkleberry.
I'm not sure there's too many deep, dark jungles of Sparkleberry, but, there's some dark places, I'll give you that.
And there's haunted places, too.
There's lots of haunted places. There's quite a few haints in Sparkleberry.
And they ain't all of them the kinds you want to be around, neither. They ain't none of them like Casper.
No, I don't think there's a single one of them that's like Casper.
He was a cute little ghost.
Yeah, but he never wore pants, and that just always kind of disturbed me. Sort of like Winnie the Pooh.
Well, he wore a top.
Yep, but no breeches.
That is true. And that reminds, thinking of that, you saying that reminds me of a thing I saw on the Tickle Talks. This little boy was talking to his mama, and he said, "Mama," he said, "little boys have three knees. They have a right knee, a left knee, and a wing knee." I don't know if we could tell that joke in all, it might offend somebody because, it doesn't jive with their made up reality of the world.
Well, yeah, you can't, the way it, well, I was about to use one of the phrases I grew up with. You can't sling a dead cat without hitting somebody that's going to be offended about something. I mean, it's just absurd.
I'm not a big fan of cats.
Well, and I did listen to something today that I thought was pretty interesting. It was
your girlfriend? She
no,
give you your marching orders for today?
No, she is at home with her mama in Costa Rica. So I am I have no adult supervision at the moment.
Oh,
It's kind of
Lord.
scary.
Oh, Lord. We're in trouble now.
But again, it was one of those things where they were talking about, the fact that people are starting to boo these trans athletes when they win a competition. And
yeah, but is it really winning a competition?
No, it's not. I mean, it's cheating. But they were talking. They were doing a recap. The talking heads were, and one of them brought up something really intriguing because they talk about trans and biological women, and the person that was recapping that was not a left wing lunatic pointed out, there's no need to qualify women. They are women, just like men are men. It's the body dysmorphic people that can't seem to distinguish,
girls have a vagina and boys have a penis, just like they said in kindergarten cop.
Well, even deeper than that, girls have two X chromosomes and boys have an X and a Y chromosome. And so it's even more basic than that. I mean, again, that's why I take so much offense to the fact that the people that worship at the altar of climate change and trans rights and all of this other stuff are the same ones that scream, you have to believe the science, but they completely ignore the science when
Well,
it
that's
doesn't
only
suit
when
their
it's on
needs.
their side of the argument.
Well, that's the point, and it's just, again, it's utter silliness, that people have such a tremendous commitment to delusion.
Well,
And
it's like, well, that was like our title of the last episode, commitment to delusion.
well, and again, this is one of the things that's been fascinating to me. I've seen multiple clips that have come up here recently of interviews with Richard Milhouse Nixon,
Real good old tricky dick.
Tricky Dick. And, again, the thing that he was impeached, disgraced, and left office over
That never would
was,
have made a ripple today.
well, well, no, it would have, if he were a Republican. If he were not. Now, I mean, again, I don't know. I have to bring that into question because of the emergence of the uniparty. Where, I mean, again, we've talked about it before. Back in the day, the Republican Party was the party of big business and commerce,
Hmm.
and wanted
Small government.
smaller government. And the Democrats were purported to be, the big government as big brother. But, I was sitting and thinking, one of the reasons that I stay wound up is I am not a fan of bullies. I don't like bullies. I never have. I've always been the guy that if I saw a bully, even if the guy was 4 times the size that I am, I was going to stick my hat in the ring and spoiling for a fight, because I just don't like bullies. And to me, the definition of a bully is somebody that uses their power and strength to enforce their will on people that they have no right to impose their will
Sounds
on.
like the
Okay.
federal government.
Well, that is the federal government. And again, that was
Well, and
why.
that ties hand in hand with all up in arms about the Chevron decision being the wrong decision and
Oh, right.
all
Yeah.
this. But I disagree because I'm going to be honest with you. The founding fathers did not intend for the federal government to have its nose in everybody's business. It's not their purview.
Well, absolutely, it's not. And again, the thing out what struck me is I was watching. I believe he's lost his primary now. One of the squad. That
Oh
was
yeah, but yeah,
the foul mouth fella that was talking
yeah,
about how they were going to show APAC the power of the Bronx, and it struck
yeah.
me that is exactly what a bully does. A bully, I mean, and this is the same thing. All these people that want the federal government to be so powerful that it overrides the will of the states, they're all
Jamal Bowman.
bullies. Yeah, Jamal Bowman. But they want their, again, historically, if you look at even, the Night of the Long Knives, Bolshevik Revolution, all of these things, it was a very small portion of the population, less than 10% of the
Hmm.
population, that took control of the seat of power in the government, and and forced their will upon all the people. And that's what these folks want. These folks, they want to be able to sit in the borough of the Bronx or the borough of Queens, or any rate somewhere in New York or Chicago or LA or any one of these great big blue strongholds, and
Hmm.
they want to make the decisions about what you and I are doing in North and South Carolina and in Montana. And they got no business doing that. And the only way they can do that is through a massive tyrannical federal government, which was the absolute opposite of what the founding fathers
Father,
intended for us to
exactly.
have. And that's so it's one of those things where the idea was, if you want to live with homeless people sleeping on the streets, and you want to live with people claim, deciding what their gender is, then, you know, knock yourself out and all of you go and congregate in one state and make the laws in that state match what you want them to be, and let the
Well, I
rest
mean,
of
and
us
that's
be alone.
essentially that's what the founding fathers wanted.
Absolutely.
It's not the federal government's place to dictate and mandate what life is supposed to look like in each individual state.
Right. Absolutely. They're supposed to maintain the infrastructure between the states, maintain the, identification, paperwork, maintain a common currency so that you don't have, and generally arbitrate disputes between each sovereign state.
Right.
And so again, that's, that is that was the goal of the founding fathers. And why was that their goal? That was their goal because they had borne the weight of tyranny from colonial Europe, colonial Britain,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and they understood that liberty was a God given right, not a right granted by the government, that the government should be afraid of its people, not the other way around. Now, I do believe that our government is absolutely terrified of us. Okay. But,
Well, I know a lot of people that are absolutely terrified of our government.
well, there is a lot of people. I'm kind of scared of our government the way it stands these days. Personally, I truly am. But that does not stop me from, I mean, again, I had intended to be at the January 6th protest. I thought it was an important historical event and I thought it was important to be there. Now, I probably would have been one of the people that would have gone on the walking tour and probably would have been in jail. But by the grace of God, things did not work out so that I could get up there.
And you're
Um,
not a Bank of America customer.
that is true. I'm not a Bank of America customer. But
Well, we had our last podcast. We
yes.
were getting ready for the main event of the debate, and we are now post debate. So why don't you give us your ideas and thoughts on the main event? I mean, you were hyped. You had your popcorn and your milk duds and your Coca Cola, and you was ready.
Well, I was actually tremendously shocked by one fact and one fact only, and that was that the moderators were actually reasonable moderators. The questions that I saw, and I didn't watch the whole thing. I couldn't. It was just gut wrenching to watch Joe
Uh
Biden
huh.
attempting to put sentences together that were coherent, and it was obviously completely beyond his capacity to do so. So it was painful to watch. I thought that Trump was astoundingly reserved.
Well, I
Um,
mean, they had his mic turned off too. So,
well, but again, he was extremely reserved, and even to the point of being respectful of the fact that his esteemed opponent was not up to the task.
when
Um,
respectful and Trump are not normally two words that are put in the same sentence.
no, absolutely not. Well, but again, they're not put in the same sentence by whom? The media, the national media.
Well,
And
and yeah,
that's
I did not watch any of it like live
mm,
or after the 2 minute delay. I watched it post mortem.
no, I understand. Yeah.
And what I saw was, and I'm not a Trump fan, and I'm definitely not a Joe Biden fan.
Mhm.
But I saw one guy that tap danced around the questions and didn't give a real answer, and another guy that couldn't answer them anyway.
Well, you know, I don't completely agree with that assessment. I thought that Trump's answers were they were far more accurate and far more to the point. I mean, unfortunately, Biden's answers were completely gibberish. It was the same thing that you
Well, we've
see.
won the battle against Medicaid. or
Yeah,
Medicare or whatever
exactly.
it was.
And yeah, I mean, again, it was really sad to watch that. But the thing that kills me is, and I have friends who have stated this, that they never voted for Biden, they voted against Trump.
Well, and I
And
think that's what ended up happening in the first place is nobody really voted for Joe Biden. They were just voting for somebody other than Donald Trump.
well, no, and that is that is absolutely the biggest cop out that I think that you could possibly take, because again, even a vote against someone else is a vote for their opponent.
Well, it's just
And
like we used to say, the voting for the lesser of two evils is still voting for evil.
absolutely, 100%. And so, if you throw the lever for the Democrats in this election and you salve your ego by saying, well, I was just voting against Trump, you're still committing an act of evil. Okay. Because this stuff it's, it, it's awful. I mean, it is absolutely awful what they have done to this nation in 4 years. And if you are so completely delusional that you cannot recognize the fact that although they're claiming that we've only had 9% inflation, your cost of
Well,
living
that
is
may be the number.
400% up.
Right. When you add in everything else, it's more like 25 or 30.
Oh, it's much more than that. I mean, again, the cost of groceries has gone up almost 100%. Okay, but that's not.
Uh-huh.
I mean, again, they're using fancy math to make things look better than they are, and the problem is we have a government that is out of control, and they spend more time trying to figure out how to be uh, released from accountability for their actions than they actually spend on the thought going into their actions to begin with. And it's atrocious. That's, I
Have
mean,
you
the
seen
government.
the new cover of Time this week?
No, I have not.
It's red. It has the word panic in white with Joe Biden walking off the cover to the right.
Hmm.
And it said that from what I have read inside the Democratic circles, they have given him 1 week to stand down.
Well, I don't see how he can, because there's
Well,
problems.
I don't see how they can force him either,
Well, but I mean, again, we've
unless
seen.
they invoke the Constitution and declare him incompetent.
Well, and they would have to do that, and then what that's going to do is that's
Of
going to put.
course, but then is there enough time between now and the election to have that done?
I don't think there's time to get another candidate on the ballot. I don't think there's time for them to do that, except in the event that he
He dies.
dies.
And Hillary Clinton's name's been thrown around, so
Lord have
all
mercy.
bets are off.
Well, and of course that does bring up something we haven't addressed, is of course Julian Assange basically accepted a plea deal so that he could stop being harassed and incarcerated by, or forced into seclusion and hiding by the CIA.
Hmm.
And there's some stuff that Tucker Carlson has been talking about Mike Pompeo. And I mean, again, that goes back to the CIA should have been gutted at the end of World War II.
Well,
And
and if not at the end of the World War II, definitely after the Bay of Pigs.
oh, absolutely. But
But
again,
President Kennedy did try,
yeah, President, that was
and they
one of the
killed
two
him for it.
things. Yeah, that was one of the two things he was going to do. He was going to take on the Federal Reserve and whittle them down to size, as well as taking out the or reducing the, scattering the this. I think he said he was
Well,
going to scatter
he
the
said he
CIA
was
to the
going to
winds.
shatter the CIA into a million pieces and
Right. and scatter it
scatter
in the
them in the
winds.
wind.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and
And
again,
then by the end of December, he was going to start pulling out of Vietnam as well.
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, as we should have. Again, and I mean, we're looking at it in retrospect, and there are a lot of people that became immensely powerful. I mean, again, the Ford Motor Company, people don't generally realize that the Ford Motor Company was building engines and vehicles and whatnot for Nazi Germany at the same time that they were building vehicles and weapons for the United States and the Allies. They were
Mm-hmm.
working both ends of the spectrum. It reminds me of that scene in granted we've talked about the lack of quality in those movies, but in the um, final saga of the last three episodes of Star Wars, where they had the arms dealers, and they were talking about, hey, look at this. This guy sells weapons to the Empire. But yeah, if you page through a few more, he also sells weapons to the rebellion. So, and
Right, right.
that's what these arms dealers do. Again, they're vultures. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why they should never have been given the level of power that they rose to, and frankly, they should be the Ford Corporation should have been. And I'm a big fan of Fords. I always drove Fords.
I'm a stockholder.
Yeah, but um, they should have been brought to trial for war crimes for supplying and treason for supplying um, weapons to the enemy, because that's adding, it's providing aid and comfort to the enemy.
It's
But
all
they
fun
never
and
were.
games.
Well, that's the thing. Again, and it's been that way throughout history. It's just become more difficult for people to see because they've got more levels
Well, they've
of
been
cloaks.
desensitized to it.
Well,
That's the
absolutely. Absolutely. But
they either think it's a conspiracy theory or a hoax or something like that because it's you're inundated with so much stuff you don't know what to believe and what not to believe.
well, again, that's one of the books. I read this book. There was a show many years ago. Oh my goodness, now I've forgotten the name of it. Eddie Izzard was the primary character or the lead role. But it was about the Irish travelers, and I've spoken about it before, and I cannot remember the name of it to save my soul. But of course, the Irish traveler, they're gypsies, and they're
Right.
American gypsies, but these are the people that will claim that they'll pave your driveway or tar your roof for pennies on the dollar, and you get once you give them the 50% that they ask for to start, they spray
They
motor oil
disappear.
on stuff and then they disappear. And
Yeah.
so, any rate,
It's
but
kind of
they,
the newer version of that are the people on the Facebook like town pages and stuff doing duct cleaning and
oh yeah,
stuff like that.
oh yeah. Well, again, it's one of those
Oh,
things
and
where,
by the way, I got a very important phone call today.
oh, well, tell me about it.
Some young fellow was nice enough to call and remind me that my car warranty is expiring.
Well, that is outstanding. I'm so glad that he called you for that.
Well,
But,
I appreciate his
enthusiasm,
dedication to public service.
right. But again, the point of the matter was that any rate, I read a book called How to Cheat at Everything that talks to you about, all of the lotteries and everything like that you get involved with and how the math actually works. And another one that I read was on how to become a con man, because I was fascinated. And what con
I
artists,
mean, do you have something that you were trying to tell me? You starting a new line of work or something?
oh, no, no, no. I have, unfortunately, I just have my conscience is a Hulk sized Jiminy Cricket.
No.
So
I
he,
mean, look, but you're here how to be a con man and how to win at everything, and I'm over here reading Batman and Robin.
no, it was how to cheat at everything.
Oh
And
well,
yeah,
something different.
these were just two books because I was fascinated by the whole the whole concept of a person that could just stand there and tell you a bald-faced lie and not bat an
Hmm.
eyelash while they're doing it. And what they rely
Well, I
on,
mean, I don't know why you're so amazed at that. We see them every day. They're politicians.
well, no, I understand that, but I'm trying to get something out that's actually
Oh,
pertinent.
oh, you
But
mean there's a point to the story?
there's a point to the story. So, but
Okay.
again, I was reading this book, and the title of a book, I believe I've still got. It's a very short book. It's How to Be a
Hmm.
Con Man. And he goes through and you look at it and it's got all of this stuff, the New York Times bestseller list tells you this and da 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 da. And the thing is, he tells you he made all of that stuff up. None of this stuff is accurate. But that's what the con man relies on, you not having enough time to validate and verify the things. It's the same thing these fact checkers do. They tell you they're a fact checker, but then when you look at it, they're just a couple, like Snopes was run by a dude and his wife. And they were fact checkers, but they only interestingly ever checked out facts that supported their position. They never
That's true.
verified facts on anybody that didn't. And it's the same thing with Google's fact checkers and Meta's, or formerly the artist formerly known as Facebook, whoever they are these days.
Well, the funny thing is people rely on this stuff, but I tend to want to be my own fact checker. You and
Absolutely.
I are from the generation to where when I hear something and I think it's a little fishy, I'm going to check it out for myself. I don't need somebody to tell me what's a fact and what's not. I have enough intelligence to suss it out for myself.
Well, sort of like when you tune into ABC, Good Morning America, or whatever it is, and they tell you the economy's going great. You've got more money in your pocket right now than you have ever had. And then you go to buy a carton of eggs and it costs you $5.
Right.
Okay. And it's like, did you hear that they're trying to remove, okay, dairy milk has become racist. Okay.
Okay.
And they're trying to remove milk from WIC. So you'll be able to buy cigarettes, but you can't buy milk for your child. So there's probably some kind of synthetic replacement for milk that they're
That's
getting
getting
ready to
ready to
come
be
out with.
unveiled. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's just astounding that, I mean, again, if people talk about the carcinogens and whatnot associated with red meat. And now if you look at the stuff that they're using to generate this man-made meat, you know, it'll make your skin crawl. I mean, they've got some stuff in there that are known carcinogens to begin
Hmm.
with. And it's just astounding to me that people are actually putting up with this nonsense. But they've beat the drum of climate change to the point, and so many people are worshiping at the altar of climate change now that and again, I've said many times that people accuse me of being a climate denier. I am absolutely not a climate denier. I very fully
Hmm.
believe the climate changes 4 times a year: spring, summer, winter, and fall. Well, spring, summer, fall, winter, if you want to do it in some sort of order.
Right. Right.
But the climate changes constantly based on the amount of activity of the sun, the tilt of the earth,
And the
volcanic
volcanoes.
activity, all sorts of things
Hmm.
make a difference in the climate. And, but carbon dioxide, I grant you, it is a greenhouse gas. I will
Yeah.
grant you that. But photoplankton, which is what produces all of the oxygen that we breathe, loves that stuff, lives for it. That's what it
Right. Well, I
breathes.
mean, the plants use it to create oxygen.
Yep. And that's what they use to create oxygen. That's exactly right. And to create more plants. So it's just, Again, we have been, so many people have bought hook, line, and sinker that the science wasn't lying to them. That's why we had to turn the food pyramid upside down, because fat wasn't bad. What's really bad is sugar. And by taking fat out of the diet, we had to put so much sugar in everything that the sugar industry loved it, but
And
you
but
can't
then
eat
it
it.
became a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, absolutely. It is a problem.
Well, there
It's the
is some
biggest
more
addiction
news
in the world.
breaking out of Texas.
Uh-oh, what's breaking out of Texas?
The police chief and the responding officer to that shooting in Uvalde have been indicted and arrested.
My goodness. For what particular reason, do you know? Is it
Well,
obvious?
it it's kind of murky, if what I thought. I mean, sure, I don't know if they did what they were supposed to do, but does that constitute um, an arrestable offense? I don't know.
Well, it's hard to tell what an arrestable offense is now when you've got the FBI sending SWAT
Well,
teams to
they said on
arrest.
they said he was arrested on 10 state felony counts of abandoning or endangering a child in the attack that killed 19 children and two teachers.
I would say that that's something that their judicial system and a jury of his peers will have to determine if that's accurate or not.
Right. I mean,
I mean, again,
were they up on the ball on responding? I don't think so, but I don't know if it rises to that level.
I don't know either, and I wasn't there, and I can't. I'm not going to second guess them. It's not. That's not my job. My job is to do the right thing in the situations that I am faced with. You know,
Well,
it's
you just are a goody two shoes.
well, but I can only do what I can do. Okay. I mean, again, today I saved
Hey,
a
baby,
turtle.
I
I, s-
drink triple goat pecker coffee and stay at Holiday Inn Express. I can do anything.
well, good on you, mate. But I mean, again, I saved a turtle today
Oh, that's
that was
good.
walking across the street, and I mean, it wasn't a busy thoroughfare, but he wasn't gonna make it. If
I
no, if
like
somebody
turtles.
had come by and not seen him, he'd have been a flat little greasy spot.
Was it a box turtle?
It was box turtle. Well, I mean, I don't know that we have box turtles this far upstate, but it was definitely a land
Or
turtle.
was it a terrapin?
I didn't take the time to actually look at it that
Oh,
closely. I was driving my mother home from seeing my grandson, and I saw said turtle, stopped, got out, moved him, or her. I
well, you
didn't
know,
check
you
into
are a
gender
good
either.
person. I know, always knew you was a good egg.
Well, I try to be, but I mean, again, that's the thing. You just kind of have to
I
try
mean,
to be
you
the
in
best person
person,
you can
you're a
be each
really
day.
great person, but you piss a lot of people off on the interwebs.
Well, yeah, I can't stop myself. I kind of have to speak on. I mean, well, that's one of the things I'm always thinking about is, we are the, if you are a believer, if you walk into a church, you will hear that we are the body of Christ. Well, the body of Christ is going to have hands, it's going to have feet, it's going to have a
Right,
mouth, and it's got the ability to do things. Now, we as the body of Christ should be doing things that bring about Christ's will on the planet.
right,
Okay. Bring about God's will on the planet. And we need to be doing that. I mean, there's plenty that we can do. There's plenty that we can do, but we have to kind of agree with each other. I mean, again, I am 100% on board with the climate folks that we need to make sure that the planet is taken care of. Okay. But
okay.
at the same time, and I saw a fellow talking, he was doing it was a comedian doing a commencement speech for a university. I did not catch which one in England, merry old England. And he was talking about climate change, and he says, you know who does not care about burning fossil fuels and does not care about the impact of what he's doing or she's doing on the environment? And the answer is poor people. If I have a button that I can push that is going to feed my children, give them full bellies, and keep them fed so that they can grow up and live a happy life, but that button is going to generate 16 metric tons a day of carbon dioxide and belch them into the atmosphere. Okay, but
It's
that's
gonna
the
get
only
built,
choice.
baby.
That's it. I'm going to press that button to take care of my family.
Yep.
Okay, so just like everything else, the government goes after the wrong thing every single time. They go over the short fix
Well, but
that
the good
makes
news
the most money
is
for
with
them.
that, with the Supreme Court's decision in Chevron, a lot of their regulatory power has been curtailed and has been put into question now due to that ruling.
Well, and it's about bloody time. Please go
So
ahead
it's,
and tell more about it because I'm
well, it's not
woefully
really.
uninformed.
Well, no, it's just that they essentially what they did is the way it worked before is you would, if the law was ambiguous
Hmm.
and was not very specific, it was left up to the people running the agencies to decide what it meant. And by
Yeah.
overturning this, they have essentially said that the government agencies do not have the authority to do this,
Well, they don't
and that right. But they a lot of people are up in arms about it because
because it
it's
takes away
going
their
to
power.
right, and it's going to fundamentally change the way things are supposed to be done and how things, if you want to make change, like even like for OSHA and
Hmm.
things like that, like even what they said, even if the decision with the outlawing or out, making non-compete clauses kind
Well,
of
and
out,
that's the thing.
it's yeah, but it's going to stop them. They don't no longer have the authority to do that.
Well, and they shouldn't. They never had the authority to begin with. So the point being that ambiguity in the law is supposed to be held in favor of the person that the law is attempting to prosecute or persecute. Okay, not in favor of the prosecuting authority. All right, that's the way it's
Mhm.
supposed to work, but that's not what we've seen
Right.
happening for decades. So I think that's a wonderful thing. I appreciate your sharing that with me because I had not read up that much on it. So I will now look into it further.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that they were waiting to see, and of course the other major one they're waiting to come out with. I know the other major one they're waiting to come out with, of course, is Trump's immunity. But the other one was where they found that uh, 300 and some of the people that were prosecuted and jailed and fined
Oh, the
for January
January 6th.
6th.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that was they couldn't do that. So that's going to be it's gonna open up a whole other can of worms there.
Well, that particular can of worms should have been opened up years ago, frankly.
Well, it should have been, but I mean, it's just going to. It is a powder keg with a lit fuse at a time to where I don't think we really needed to address it.
Well, I understand, but again, that's what they do. That's what they do in order to try to swing the votes of the agitators, the ones that the activists back and forth. Again, women are still
Hmm.
screaming about abortion rights and whatnot like that. And again, I still maintain that the problem with abortion is not the infant or a woman's right to choose because that same woman had the right to choose to keep her legs closed. Okay, just
Amen,
like
brother.
the
Preach,
man
brother. Preach.
just
Woo,
like the man
amen, preach.
had the choice, or had the choice to keep his britches zipped. Okay. And
Yep.
so the point is that once that, the problem is that having a child in our modern society is an 18-year commitment that costs millions of dollars. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it should not be that way. Again, back in the olden days, if a child was born, that was great because you had somebody else to share
To
the
help
burden.
the work on the farm.
When my grandmother was 5 years old, her job was to go down and feed the pigs. Now, the big problem with her going down to feed the pigs was she had to walk through the cow pasture to do so. And there was a
Mm-hmm.
bull in that cow pasture, and he was an ill-tempered SOB. And so my grandmother used to tell stories of having to scamper at 5 years old, having to scamper up on top of one of the buildings that the pigs lived in to keep from getting gored by the bull at 5 years old. Okay.
Well, if
Now,
you get gored by the bull, it's just going to teach you character.
not at 5 years old, I'm afraid. If you get gored by the bull, you're likely not to survive that. But again, the point is that in those days, there was probably some stigma to a child being born out of wedlock. But again,
Oh,
it
most
wasn't
definitely.
it wasn't that big of a deal. Okay. That, I mean, it was if you were in the upper echelon circles. But again, if you had a child, that was somebody else, that was another pair of hands to work around the farm and make sure everybody got fed.
Right, most definitely.
And now we don't have that. But again, just like the whole thing about climate change, the only people that can worry about whether or not a gasoline engine is putting out too much carbon emissions, and we also talked about the whole low lead gas or low lead additive to gas thing, anti-knock, that
Mm-hmm.
caused so much issue with people breathing vapor with lead in it. Um, the only people that can take the time to worry about that don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from.
Right.
And that has been,
The being able to be concerned about a lot of the left's environments, or what I guess the old adage is, first world problems,
oh,
to
absolutely. Yeah.
where you have the luxury that you can be offended by something because
Hmm.
you're not worried about putting food on the table, or paying the
Exactly.
power bill, or
Exactly.
anything like that.
And again, that's one of the whole drivers behind the whole big government push. Because if the government's taking care of everything, then you don't have to worry about it. But that's communism or socialism. And again, I don't personally think that the form or system of government is as important as the people who are in charge of it. If you had people who actually had the welfare of the citizenry of the United States or the Soviet Union or whatever, if they really truly had the lives and liberties of the common people, the poor, the unwashed masses, the
Hmm.
people that are on the lower end or even just on the left side of the bell curve, period. If
Right,
they
right,
truly had their benefits at heart, then it would be a different story no matter which form of government you have at the helm. But the problem is, by the time you get up to the level of someone that's in the decision making positions, they're usually such scoundrels by the time they've got to that point that they're you can't trust them for anything. So that's the
that's true.
problem, and that's the whole reason that our founding fathers designed the system that they designed. Now we have,
And
of
that
course,
if they were magically transported to today, that they would redraft the Declaration of Independence and start all over again.
I I don't know if they do that or if they just shake their heads in disgust and tell us this is what you wanted, have it. They gave us the tools. We unfortunately don't have the courage or the leadership to use those tools to take
Correct.
control back of this government. At least we don't appear to.
At least not currently. But
At
maybe
least
we
not
can work
currently.
on that.
Well, and that's the whole thing. I think maybe in some small way that we are doing that, you and I, at least by having these discussions and
Hey,
pointing some of
because
this
if
stuff out.
if they stupid, we're gonna tell them they stupid. We don't care.
Well, that's the truth.
And that is the snout to the curly tail and everything in between. And if we pissed you off, good for you. It's better than being pissed on. And we gone.
You have a good night.
All right, you crazy bunch of motherfuckers. Wait, can we say mother? Anyway, you've been listening to the Carolina Underground. It isn't politically correct, it's just correct. Our motto is, if you can't go balls deep, don't go at all. Actually, that's not our motto, and I'm sorry, I don't even know what that meant. All right, we gotta go. We hope you enjoyed the show. And if you didn't, we hope it really pissed you off. Follow us on Twitter at Carolina UNDGRND. Underground, get it? Or drop us an email at Carolina UNDGRND. Get it? At northstate.net. We want to hear from you. Y'all be cool. See you next time on Carolina Underground.